Hello, and welcome to the PeerTA podcast. I'm your host, Ayaan Garan, a member of the PeerTA team, where we facilitate information sharing across state and local TANF agencies. Funded by the Office of Family Assistance, PeerTA provides technical assistance, facilitates dialogue, and helps TANF programs learn about effective strategies to support families and promote employment. This episode will provide insights into the connection between the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families programs, also known as TANF, and Healthy Marriage and Responsible Fatherhood programs, also known as HMRF. HMRF programs are part of the Administration for Children and Families, ACF, strategy to help interested adults and youth build stronger relationships, marriages, father-child engagement, and families. Ultimately, this aims to help achieve the goal of fostering economically secure households and communities to improve the lives of children and families. The TANF program provides federal block grants to states. States then use these funds to operate their TANF programs and fund additional programs that are aligned with TANF's four statutory purposes. HMRF programs help accomplish several of the TANF program's key purposes, including promoting marriage, encouraging the formation and maintenance of two-parent families, promoting employment, and providing support for children to be raised in their homes or the homes of relatives. In this episode, we'll learn more about HMRF programs and how states are utilizing TANF funds to support HMRF work. Specifically, this episode focuses on fatherhood programs. Today, we will be sharing 3 conversations that we held with staff connected with fatherhood work in 2 different states holding different positions. Today's first guest is Kimberly Dent from the Ohio Commission on Fatherhood at the Ohio Department of Children and Youth.
So my name is Kim Dent. I am the Executive Director with the Ohio Commission on Fatherhood. We are housed inside of the Department of Children and Youth, recently moved to this new department from the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services. So many folks may be listening to this podcast may recall that the Commission on Fatherhood was part of ODJFS, Ohio Department of Job and Family Services, for many, many years. And the Governor DeWine, actually created a new Department of Children and Youth focusing on the outcomes and well-being of Ohio's children. And as we know, fathers are a big piece to the outcomes of our kiddos. And so I was very excited and happy that he included moving the Commission on Fatherhood over to DCY. So there's 4 purposes of the commission. One is to fund programs. That's where the majority of my funding goes. Another one is to bring an awareness to the important role fathers play in their children's lives, right? So we talk about the data, the child outcomes, so forth and so on. The third is training professionals and practitioners. So on my website, there's a list of fatherhood curricula that's either evidence-based, maybe evidence-tested or evidence-informed, that we say when you apply for our funding, you have to choose one of these. So we offer training to fatherhood practitioners and professionals in the state of Ohio in all of the different curricula. Then the fourth purpose is advocating for certain policies. We ensure that we're at the table when anytime someone says family. If you say family, regardless of what that topic is, when you engage families, then our question is, okay, are you including dad in this? So we want to make sure that our policies are father-friendly and father-inclusive. We serve fathers with helping them remove barriers, become good dads, curriculum programming like classes, but then also working with mom in an amicable way to co-parent and best rear their children or their child. And then, of course, the economic stability piece, of course, of helping dad become job ready, obtaining and then maintaining employment.
Could you speak a little bit more about this transition to focusing on child outcomes and well-being and how important healthy marriages and responsible fatherhood is in improving those outcomes?
Absolutely. So we've always done that here at the Commission on Fatherhood when we were at Ohio Department of Job and Family Services as well. Many times I look at the FOAs, the funding opportunity announcements, and they really align and coincide with what we do as well when we offer those procurement opportunities. Because again, we are not saying in fatherhood that we're trying to get dads out of any responsibility, right? There is a responsibility as dad and as mom, right? But a lot of times systems have more resources and sometimes sway more in a direction of mom. And so it's important that for us that we're at the table with a lot of the systems when it comes to like policy work. So for example, children's services, child support, right? Here at the state. So again, we have four purposes of TANF. And I think in a lot of our work, and it was someone, and I don't remember who it was, and maybe if she listens to this, but it was someone actually at Office of Family Assistance at ACF that mentioned at a conference that the more money we put into TANF purposes 3 and 4, we could possibly decrease the amount of money we put into TANF purposes 1 and 2, which are those more needs-based single parent sort of benefits. And so if we take a look at some of the things that we're doing here, which is prevention, right? So that's purpose 3, preventing out of wedlock pregnancies, right? We can get upstream and help with health, more so with healthy relationships before, people bring children into the world, how important it is to have a healthy relationship, preferably marriage. And I do always mention marriage here in Ohio because we are still a state that has a revised code that states that an unwed woman that gives birth to a child is calling all the shots, right? So we need you to know upstream, young man, that if you do have a child with someone and you're not married to her, there are some hoops that you may have to jump through. Now, we can get you through those hoops, no problem, by getting you to court to get access to your child and get a parenting time order. However, just think how much better that would be if you didn't have to do that, right? And if there was a healthy relationship on the front end before bringing a child into the world. Most of my funding is TANF Purpose 4, which I think is more so with the responsible fatherhood grants coming out of HHS, out of Administration for Children and Families. And that's advocating, supporting two-parent families. We still show, and I think national data shows as well, that children have such positive outcomes when both parents are healthy, responsible, co-parenting, right, in a healthy way. We can just show that our kids perform off the charts, right?
How would you, in your words, define success for the parents that go through these programs?
I'm always focused on the children. I mean, I feel as though once you start having children, that's kind of where we have to learn how to regulate ourselves and our feelings. One of the comments I would make sometimes to moms is, once you love your child more than you dislike the situation between you and your child's father, then you're going to be fine. And so success for me is when we include mom and dad and they're at the table together in a peaceful way.
I've been thinking towards the beginning of the conversation, you said something about how healthy marriage and responsible fatherhood focused programs in focusing on the third and fourth TANF goals help move the program toward accomplishing the first two goals, providing assistance and also helping families not need the assistance anymore. Can you speak to the pathways or mechanisms that states can use TANF dollars to help fund HMRF focused programs and work towards accomplishing those statutory goals?
Funding a fatherhood program here, and I'm going to just use Central Ohio. I hope my other grantee programs don't get mad at me because we are funding them throughout the state in 23 different counties, 9 different grant programs under the big funding that I refer to. So here in Ohio, there is a policy change that happened years ago at the State Office of Child Support that allows a child support agency to reinstate the driver's license if the father or the non-custodial parent who's paying support is part of a family support program. More times than not, that's going to be a fatherhood program. So I'll mention Franklin County Child Support. Franklin County Child Support here in Columbus, when dad's license is suspended, can work with an HMRF or Commission on Fatherhood, TANF funded fatherhood program to say to dad, hey, if you're part of this family support program, if you're part of this fatherhood program at Action for Children, then we'll go ahead and reinstate your driver's license so you can get to and from work, or so that you can get to this job, because at the end of the day, we just need you working to pay your child support. So how states can work with other, work together to ensure that the TANF Purpose 4, which is supporting two-parent families, right? So that those two parents can take care of the child and not be on public assistance. So how do you do that? Mom doesn't need public assistance because dad is working and he's paying child support into the household. We need to make sure on this end that we're supporting him in becoming gainfully employed, right? So that he can pay child support. And so that's the best way to kind of tie in how we can fund fatherhood programs to help dad become gainfully employed, to pay his child support so that we can keep mom and child, the custodial parent, off of needs-based public assistance.
We spoke with the project director of Passages Connecting Fathers and Families to highlight an example of a program working towards achieving TANF goal with healthy marriage and responsible fatherhood dollars. Passages has been serving the Cleveland, Ohio area since 1998 and empowers families to improve their lives and successfully achieve family resiliency and financial independence through providing supports to low-income parents, especially fathers.
My name's Jennifer Kearney, and I am the project director for STEPS at Passages Connecting Fathers and Families in Northeast Ohio.
Thank you. Could you tell us more about Passages? What is your mission statement?
Absolutely. So Passages has been working with fathers and families in our communities for over 20 years. And our mission statement is to inspire and empower families to thrive. So we have different programming in 4 counties in Northeast Ohio, and we provide our STEPS program. And then we also have our family resiliency program. Both of those programs are doing some type of parenting work and some different things there. Our STEPS program is providing the evidence-based fatherhood and domestic violence curriculum and doing some very detailed case management services. But we also have our cognitive behavioral intervention employment program. So we work with both men and women who are on probation to assist them with a cognitive based program to help them get to work, not just get to work, but be able to find employment and then actually maintain that employment. I think really the point of sharing all of that is, number one, of course, to highlight the things that we're doing. But number two, we try to make sure that we can do as much in-house as possible, because we know that it can be really difficult to have to go from here to there to here just to kind of reach one, maybe 2 goals, or to even just reach part of a goal. So we work hard to try and provide as many services in one space as we can, just to help the fathers and the families that are accessing our services.
Who does your program serve?
The STEPS program serves all fathers and father figures with children ages 24 and under who live in any of the 3 counties that we serve in Northeast Ohio. We find that we serve mostly fathers living in urban and rural areas. We have found that fathers living in urban and rural areas historically have had less access to fatherhood services that enhance the relationship between both fathers and their children and fathers and the mother of their children. And we know that research has shown us that when children have both of their parents, the entire family thrives together.
How would you describe the curriculum utilized by Passages?
Sure. So we utilize several different curricula throughout our different programs, but particularly with the STEPS program, we utilize 24/7 Dad AM and Understanding Domestic Violence from the National Fatherhood Initiative. All of the curricula that we use at our organization is evidence-based. And with the 24/7 Dad AM, that includes 24 hours of programming, and the Understanding Domestic Violence provides 3 hours of programming. So the main topics that we're hitting are related to promoting marriage and healthy relationships, responsible parenting, and economic stability.
Were either of those curricula designed in-house?
So the curriculum that we use in our programs has been designed by the experts at the National Fatherhood Initiative, and they periodically update their curriculum to ensure that it's up to date and relevant. And so we keep in contact with them to get any new information as it comes out. And while we did not design the curriculum, we wanted to make sure that we found information that would not just impact the fathers coming through our programs, but that would impact their entire family.
Thank you. What outcomes does your program measure?
So the STEPS program measures things like enrollment and program completion to ensure that there is a need for our services and that fathers and father figures continue to see the program through, to things like discipline, nurturing, and time with their children. And we measure information related to economic stability and healthy relationships. In addition to those outcomes, we are operating a local evaluation in partnership with Case Western Reserve University. Through both the descriptive and impact study, we are able to measure things like the effectiveness of a mentoring program for fathers and the relational health of fathers and how that impacts fathering, relationships, and economic outcomes. We also recognize how important it is to evaluate the programming we are providing and have been able to learn more about fathers' experiences with the program through several focus groups over time. We know it's important to ensure that the services that we're providing and the work that we're doing is making a difference and is useful for the families that we're interacting with on a regular basis.
How would you describe a successful outcome for the dads that go through passages?
Yeah, success for our program participants can look different for each individual father or father figure and their family. But in general, success looks like interacting with the cohort that we have to get new information, reaching goals such as employment, healthy co parenting, and more time with their children, realizing that they have a safe space to process all things fatherhood related, and having connections within the community to assist them in their journey to be more connected to their families and to have healthier relationships with their children.
Can you think of any examples or anecdotes of dads that have gone through the program that you would consider successful?
Yeah, we had a father recently come through the program who expressed that he learned a lot through the cohort, but the conversation that we had with him was a little more specific to employment. So part of what he did was he worked individually with his employment coordinator and practiced a bunch of questions to prepare him for the space of job interviews. And he had reached back out and said, wow, all these things that we practiced were really what happened once I went to the interview and he secured employment. And that not only allowed him to be in a better space as far as his economic stability, but it also provided him confidence. And he was excited about the steps he was taking forward. And then I would say some other examples of that are, we've gotten feedback from the fathers who are in the space of getting the program content and learning about discipline and healthy communication and those types of things. And they have shared back that they have actually learned multiple new tools that have helped them to interact in a more healthy way with their family, with their co-parent, with their significant other, and with their children, which I think is such a big win.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
How does your program contribute to the fabric of your community?
I would say our program supports fathers in their important roles within families and societies, which really does have a big contribution to the community. By providing education and support in areas such as healthy relationships and co parenting, marriage, and fatherhood, the program ensures that fathers are equipped with the tools they need to create stable, nurturing environments for their children. These efforts directly contribute to stronger family units, which then leads to stronger communities.
We've spoken a bit already about what impact does it have on participants' lives, but is there anything else you can mention about impact on dads' lives, families' lives, co-parents' lives?
Yeah, in general, our participants have expressed improved relationships with both the mother of their children and their children. They're learning important information about things such as healthy relationships and marriage, job readiness, and parenting skills such as healthy discipline. Fathers in the program have a safe space to learn and grow. They experience an increase in social supports and have a better understanding of their importance in their role as a father and their role in the family. And they gain practical tools to assist them in their parenting and employment journeys.
How do programs like Passages contribute toward the realization of TANF purposes?
Our programs contribute toward reaching goals of TANF because we have a focus on healthy relationships, healthy parenting, and economic stability. When parents have a healthy relationship with each other, we know that has many positive impacts for both of the parents. And then, most importantly, it positively impacts the child. Children are more likely to be successful in most areas of life when they have both of their parents. Seeing an increase in economic stability also assists families to be able to be in a better position to provide the basic needs for their children on their own. And one of the new things that I had already previously mentioned was looking into the space of, helping with mediation and just really helping to foster those healthy relationships to assist families to remain intact and to ensure that children really have access to healthy relationships, but also that economic stability piece of things.
We spoke last week to Director Kimberly Dent from the Ohio Commission on Fatherhood. She asked us to make sure to mention to you the work that you all do together on the Fatherhood and Motherhood conferences in prisons. Could you speak a little to that?
So, our partnership with the Ohio Commission on Fatherhood and the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections and the Office of Reentry has really just been an amazing opportunity. We've also recently been able to partner with Good Plus Foundation on that as well. And so we are able to bring these important conversations about fatherhood, healthy relationships, everything parenting into the facilities, and including the topic of motherhood too, because we are going into both male and female institutions. And so we are talking about how to navigate systems, whether that's child support, children and family services. We are talking about healthy parenting. We are talking about really an array of different subjects, economic stability, being ready to get to work when, upon release, and then also creating a space for families to connect together. And so we start off those conferences with kind of the part of getting excited, right? And so we're talking about parenting and we're talking about how important that role is. And then we're moving into the educational part of that. We're covering all these topics. And then we move into a family day. And so we're really fostering that space of connection because no matter where each parent is, we know that families do better when children have both of their parents. So it's really a place for us to encourage that continued involvement and then be able to create some space for the children to have some time with either their father or their mother.
Our second program spotlight is Fathers Incorporated, based in Atlanta, Georgia. We spoke to Fathers Incorporated's project director to learn more about the work the program has been doing to change the current societal and cultural definition of family to be inclusive of fathers at the national level. Using HMRF funds, Fathers Incorporated focuses on providing supports and services that increase the social and emotional well-being of low-income parents, especially non-custodial fathers and their families.
I'm Javin Foreman, Project Director of Fathers Incorporated here in Atlanta, Georgia. So I'm involved in our Gentle Warriors Academy, which is our direct service arm of Fathers Incorporated. As people may know or may not know, Fathers Incorporated does a lot of advocacy work. It's over the National Responsible Fatherhood Clearinghouse as well. But this is really our first foray on this level into direct service. So we're very pleased to be a part of this project.
Tell us more about Fathers Incorporated. What is your mission statement?
Yep. So our mission statement is to engage, equip, and empower a community network of fathers, families by creating an environment of support, parental education, and positive societal narratives. We know our mission is to work with fathers, of course, directly and indirectly in some cases, but more than anything, we want to support families and the environment, create an environment where fathers are respected, they're being responsible, they have the opportunity to do what we know they need to do to make a societal impact. And that happens through training other agencies who may be in the field, through our messaging, information that's put out, whether it's brochures that we create in-house and disseminate.
Who does your program serve primarily?
The one I'm involved in, the Gentle Warriors Academy, it's fathers here in the Atlanta metro area. There are about 7 to 9 counties that we work with directly. Just with Atlanta's demographic, they tend to be African-American fathers, but we've had a wide variety of fathers come to us, and so it doesn't matter if you're a father, you identify as a father. Sometimes it might be an uncle who plays a role of a father. But if you're that father figure, then we want you in our program. And so we've had the privilege, I would say, of serving fathers that are in community as well as fathers that are incarcerated. So this has given us a really amazing opportunity to touch a large swath of fathers. And then through an extension, we've actually been able to kind of dip our toes in the waters of working with these co-parents as well. So in the last year or so, we've been able to see what it looks like on the other side of the coin to work with some moms who are the co-parents of these dads. So we've been doing some, I think, some pretty good work around that as well, and lots of learning. So that's something we hope to do and take into, if we're blessed enough for our next round of funding, we really want to bring that model into work we do day to day.
Yeah. Would you say that your approach to programming differs between the demographics, like mothers, fathers who are incarcerated?
Yeah, so I think that's one unique thing about Fathers Incorporated. We definitely look to meet our participants where they are. So it's not sort of this cookie cutter model, even as we get to talk about what our curriculum looks like. We didn't just want to be, hey, here's our menu. This is the only things that we do. We've really built the plane in a certain sense as we've flown it. We've learned a lot about the population that we've served when it comes to the fathers. And of course, with the moms, that's been something brand new for us. So we did a lot of training for our team when we received that opportunity so we can learn. We went out kind of on a fact-finding mission so we really could inform ourselves. I think that's what works best for us is to go in. We have a good model that we use, which is really, it's a hands-on approach, which I think is our secret sauce, showing that compassion that we're real people, just like the people sitting across the table from us are, so I think that's really our model across the board, but then it's really understanding what their needs are, whether we have it internally or going out and finding those right resources, and then also collaborating with partners. And we've even had opportunities at some of the conferences to collaborate with other partners, hear about what they're doing, share what we're doing. That's just part of who we are. We make sure we bring the latest information. We do have the Moynihan Institute, which is a part of Fathers Incorporated, which is kind of those what I call our eggheads, the PhDs, the doctors, the people. So they bring us the latest and the greatest information. So we take that, we want that data to kind of help inform what we do on the ground.
You've already started talking about it a little bit, but how would you describe the curriculum utilized by Fathers Incorporated?
Yeah, so I think what I would say, it's a curriculum that's built on experience. Our CEO, Fathers Incorporated, he built it some years back and got it out in the community and tested it. We did a cohort of fathers who were in the community who we looked at as kind of influencers, just to test it out, beat it up some, get feedback. Then as we moved into serving the fathers with this grant opportunity, we allowed the curriculum to evolve. We had sections of the curriculum that we didn't have enough time to use. We folded them in if we found a need for it. So I think it is based off of real experience from fathers with Kenneth Braswell himself, the other work that he's done. But what this project has done is, I believe, it's legitimized our curriculum. We've been able to show its impact, what we've been able to do, keep fathers in. One of the data points that we found is if a father commits the first 2 weeks, he has about a 90% chance of completing. So I think that talks about our facilitation, our curriculum, just our model in general. But that's what I think is very unique. I know there are a lot of curriculums out there that other programs have used, but this has been a unique and great opportunity for us to make sure we battle tested ours. And we think we have one of the best curriculums around for fathers.
What outcomes does Fathers Incorporated measure?
Yep. So when it comes to this project, of course, we're looking at attendance. As I talked about before, our fathers actually attending these sessions. One of the things we also measure is assistance, around the resources that we provide. But then there are things like time spent with children as well. We take a look at attitudes and beliefs, how those things change over time from when they start. Then I think one of the big ones on our side, which wasn't something we necessarily had on paper when we started the project, but as we got into this grant, we found they needed child support assistance. They needed parenting time assistance. They may have that order in place that's getting violated, or they need to figure out how to get access to their children. And the big one here in Georgia, you always hear Fathers Incorporated talk about, is legitimation. So essentially, if you're an unwed father in the state of Georgia and you have a child, you have to go through a legal step. You have to essentially file to gain your parental rights as a father. And so, it can be challenging. Many fathers can be flat out intimidated by the process. It could come with a $3,000 to $5,000 price tag for fathers that need to hire attorneys. So that in and of itself, you talk about TANF, the TANF population that we serve, many of these fathers do not have those type of funds. So we felt we were able to do something that was very relevant to our target audience as we learned about them. We were able to turn the boat around in real time and just make this kind of one of the tenets of the work that we do. Families need fathers to be present. They need fathers to have their rights. So that was something we honed in on and said, hey, this would probably be a great use of funds. Although we can't do anything directly legal, what we can do is teach about the system. And we were able to go out and find volunteer resources in the form of attorneys, a partnership through legal aid, where these attorneys will actually come in and help these dads complete their legitimation petitions on site once they completed our 6-week curriculum and actually help them to file them. So we know that really empower these fathers just going through that process, knowing they can advocate for themselves. So that's something that we do also measure, to see whether these dads are actually filing their petitions, if they're following through, if they're getting access to their children.
How would you describe success for your program participants?
Yeah, I think it's more than just our program participants. I think it's success for the community. We have more responsible fathers who have access to their children. And that word responsible can kind of be a red herring. It doesn't mean that the father is not responsible. He's a little boy running around. He's not able to be responsible, and many times he's not able to handle his responsibilities. And so sometimes it is preparation for what those responsibilities look like. So you think about dealing with modules around childhood development. That's a father really understanding this is your responsibility for a child 0 through 5. What time should they be going to bed? Should you be checking in on certain things? We deal with those type of things. So just knowing that we're putting responsible fathers in the community that are ready to take responsibility for their own families, but also for the community, so that's something that's really important to us. So I think for success, knowing that we have fathers who feel supported. So it's not just that individuals' goals, but when they come to us and come through Fathers Incorporated, we want them, if it's successful, they'll be reaching back, attending events that we have, coming back. Hey, how can I help with the next cohort? So I think that's one way we measure, but absolutely we're looking at how many fathers have more access to their children, how much more time are they able to spend with their children from the work that we've done.
And you collect data on these outcomes? How do you do that?
Yep. So we have a partner, Midwest Evaluations, who's been with us from day one. So there are surveys that take place at the beginning, the middle, and then exit surveys as well. With what we do around legitimation, we have a legitimation specialist who actually does the follow-up work that's necessary so we can see if we're impacting things in that legal space when it comes to them. And then, of course, case managers when it comes to the referrals to resources that we're making. Between those 2 or 3 entities, we're able to make sure we have what we need and know that what we're doing is effective.
Is there anything else you would like to add to the ways in which Fathers Incorporated contributes to the fabric of your community?
So I think just being a good partner. So one of the things that I think happened as everybody who was involved in the fire grant, we ran into COVID as we were looking to serve the fathers. And I think many models of other fire grantees, they relied on lots of referrals from community. We didn't necessarily, we went in with a couple community partners we were thinking we'd be able to work with. Never really got a lot of those partnerships out off the ground for various reasons. I think sometimes it's just people working in silos doing what it is that they do. But we committed to build ourselves our own referrals machine. So what we found from social media, we ran billboards at times. We got a really good outreach team, radio commercials. We found those things to be effective. And as we built social media and things like that, I think one of the things we look at is being a good community partner where people send referrals to us. We have a great partnership, for example, with Clayton County Courts, where they have a child abandonment court that meets weekly. And so that judge, she hears cases. Of course, everybody that comes to us is on a voluntary basis. But what she's decided to do is give these fathers an opportunity to interact with our program to kind of get themselves back on track before she makes any, quote unquote judgments, no pun intended, about what's going to happen with their case, because a lot of times it could be miscommunication. It could be this father sort of off track. It could be social emotional things that are happening. That's a barrier with him paying child support, for example. So we try to work with these fathers to clean those things up, to spell rumors about what child support is, and just provide them, fertile ground so that he can be the best father he can possibly be.
And when a father moves through the program or a co-parent, what impact do you see it having on their and their family's lives?
We've gotten feedback from fathers directly. We have testimonials, but I think we see a more stable father who feels more supported. The first thing they say to us is, I can't believe a program like this even exists. It's something for me. And then when they find out it's funded by a TANF, it's funded by the government, supported, it just gives them more faith in general, kind of in society, and saying, wow, I really am important. So I think it just sets them up to want to be their best selves for themselves, but also for their families, and see themselves a little bit differently. So I think those are some of the major things. But then we think about the co-parent, the mom, from her standpoint. I think, again, it's her being able to come in and not be judged. Now we can put these two stories together and we can kind of say, okay, let's make it about the child. Let's be child-centric, in this situation. So I think we've been able to kind of be a conduit to improving relationships between co-parents, both of them understanding, and just need that neutral party. As they matriculate through what we're doing, we just want to see stable people who can begin to focus on that child and say, hey, regardless of your relationship, you need to be there for this child.
How do fatherhood programs like Fathers Incorporated contribute toward the realization of TANF statutory goals and purposes?
Yeah, so we know it's about needy families, but it's kind of, again, child-centric. They want to see healthy children so the cycle does not necessarily repeat. And again, it should be temporary. So you need resources out there to give this guy a boost, or give this mom a boost so she can be her best self. And sometimes when they're in triage, they might not be the best person to do that job hunt for themselves. But if there's a case manager to say, hey, I see your skills, let's improve that resume, let's pass it around some for you. We got some recommendations. We've seen fathers gain employment. We've seen fathers become more stable. And oftentimes, I think it's just having someone to go through this with you. What we say as you come in, hey, I can't solve all of your problems. Some of this stuff is just a process you're going to have to go through. But what I can do is make sure, we'll be here to support you, and not just us. But the other thing you hear us talk about in these cohorts is the brotherhood. Now you have 35 other guys in this cohort with you dealing with something similar. You're not going at it alone. They're cheering for each other. They're making job recommendations. They're asking each other, how did court go yesterday? I understand you had a hearing, and then from our facilitators on down, just a supportive environment. I think that's the most powerful thing that we can create, and it's evident when I open my email like this morning, guys saying, hey, Mr. Javin, I want to give you a quick update on what's happening with my court case. I had my final hearing. It was pushed back. It should have been this week. I'm a bit disappointed, but I'm just going to stay the course, and so that's when it's working with. It's not just a one-way street they're talking back to us. I think that's what TANF should want to see, fathers and families who are tethered to something else. They provide sort of this boost, whether it's in funding or organizations like ours that are committed to doing the work, and to say, okay, my dollars are invested in the right organizations, because now, instead of them being a lifelong member of TANF, they're a lifelong member of Fathers Incorporated.
Well, thank you so much for answering that. I think we covered everything. Is there anything else that you weren't able to share about your program, the connection to TANF, the impact on your community that you would like to share?
So I just think the last thing, I really just want to hone on is, a lot of people ask about our secret sauce. Of course, our numbers look really good. We've exceeded our numbers year over year. But for us, I think at Fathers Incorporated, we're really appreciative, of the opportunity to partner with TANF, to be included in a budget like that, for them to think about fatherhood being this important. I think TANF has really done a great job of bringing people who care about this type of work. A lot of people who probably have volunteered and would do this work for little to nothing. I think they're able to come to the table and bring their gifts to the table to serve communities all around the country. I know in our case, our slogan is fatherhood is brotherhood, but we've really been able to create that brotherhood over these 4+ years.
I want to thank our guests again, Director Kimberly Dent of the Ohio Commission on Fatherhood, Jennifer Kearney of Passages Connecting Fathers and Families, and Javin Foreman of Fathers Incorporated, for joining us and lending insight to the ways in which healthy marriage and responsible fatherhood programs are promoting TANF's goals through strengthening families and providing fathers and other caregivers with the supports and resources they need to improve their parenting, navigate systems, and reach self-sufficiency. And thank you also to our listeners for taking the time to learn more about these vital programs.